Braden Gall's joining us, the owner of 440 Sports, and of course you can find him on ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports. He's all over the place. And you got a new hockey venture, right? Is that, I don't know if it's new, but new since the last time I spoke to you.
Yeah, we launched a hockey community for Nashville Predators fans, which I'm sure so many of your audience and your members are very interested in. If you want to know about the Nashville Predators farm system, I'm your guy. I'll tell you. No, I'm hiring some people that actually know what they're talking about in that space. I covered the team for a while, but the goal is the same at 440. It's the same, when I fill in on ESPN Radio and get to do shows. It's about community. It's about people who love the same things, who are invested in the same things. You guys are doing the exact same stuff, and so it's sort of a print version of what you guys do, covering the Aggies. We're going to do that for the Predators, and it's no different than what we do for SEC football or the Titans, or when I'm talking to the Feinbaum audience, for example. It's a tight knit group.
Yeah, they are, and it's going to be a tight knit group next week. It's going to be a bigger group because we'll be in Dallas. You looking forward to SEC Media Days?
I'm looking forward to eating some cow cooked the right way. I mean, I know you folks know how to do that, and I haven't lived in Texas for, I don't know, since 1996. And so I got some family in the Dallas area, and looking forward to seeing some family and eating some brisket and listening to kids tell their stories, because that is really what I find to be interesting. I've been going to SEC Media Day since 2006 in Hoover, Alabama, my first year out of college working in this world. And I think the kids, the athletes, I say that now because I'm 42 years old, they're the best part.
Yeah.
By far the best part. They are the most interesting. They are the most dynamic. They are the most thoughtful. They are way more impressive than anybody realizes, especially fans, especially old fans. The coaches are the coaches. They are what they are. They're going to get there, and they're going to have their talking points, and they're going to say their things. And maybe Shane Beamer and Lane Kiffin and Mark Stoops will say some weird stuff to each other, but like by and large, it's about the athletes, it's about the players, and they've gained strength in their voice over the last few years with the freedom to speak more and to have more opportunity to speak. And when I go to this event, I am going exclusively to get to know the players, speak to them, and sort of tell their stories when I'm there, and maybe pick some brains off the record about what people think about XYZ team or whatever. So
I haven't heard the soundbite yet, but our buddy Josh Pate tweeted out a little while ago he has A&M as a top 10 team over the next 3 years. A lot has to happen, and I think there's a great core unit there. What do you think about the job Elko's been able to do, not only keeping players, the retention and beyond, but just like it seems like the structure that he's put in place?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are much closer, but from a distance, it feels like a night and day, moment by moment switch. And I think you guys have covered this, and I've talked to some folks down there that when he was the assistant, that the two practice fields were different. Like, here's the offensive practice field that felt this way, X way, and here's the defensive practice field that felt Y, and it felt different, and it felt run differently and organized differently. And when you have that kind of just sort of obvious difference, I think and I've said this on our shows, and I'll say it whenever anywhere I'm going. The thing that would shake up the SEC more than anything else, more than Texas joining, more than Oklahoma joining, more than no divisions, more than a 12-team playoff, is if Texas A&M maximizes its potential. If it maximizes its potential, it shakes up the conference at a foundational level. It adds another program like an Alabama or Georgia or Florida. When they're great and they figure it out, they can run the sport. And so A&M's never really figured that out in the modern era in any conference. And if Elko's the right guy for the job, which it seems like he very much could be, then it totally changes the dynamic of the conference. With questions, I don't think there's a lot of questions about Kalen DeBoer, but I think there are certainly deserving questions when Nick Saban retires. I mean, Oklahoma's got a long way to go, especially with the difficult schedule in the next few years. I think Georgia's going to be Georgia. What's Florida's future? We don't know. What's Auburn's future? We're not sure. I think there's a space, and whether that's Brian Kelly, whether that's Josh Heupel, whether that's Mike Elko, somebody is going to fill it. And I think Texas A&M has as good a chance to fill that space and be on that top tier. Again, assuming Elko's the right guy. And I think he's extremely well respected. I have a ton of respect for him, and I feel like the culture shift overnight. You guys can speak to it way more than I can, but if you can feel that kind of shift overnight, hard to argue with that.
Braden, follow me here. I don't know how much you follow college baseball, but I feel that what we saw with the A&M baseball program is a snapshot of what we could see for Aggie football. Because there's a lot of people like, A&M this is who they are, right? The reality is you get the right guy in there, everything changes, going back to what you were kind of saying. And I think they had the right guy. Hopefully we have a better guy now. But you get the right guy who gets a certain type of player, and you all play for one thing. Here's the thing. Jimbo had one really good year here, and he couldn't build on that. So it's going to take something that is not just a one-year thing.
Yeah. So my first trip to Omaha to cover the College World Series is 2007. I've been a few times, and you guys are not going to like this. I'm just going to prepare you, so just be careful. But my 7-year-old daughter, who has been to Neyland Stadium, and who shamed me into taking her to a Tennessee Vanderbilt football game one time when she was like 5, knows every player on Tony Vitello's team right now.
Right.
So I just want to point that out.
All good.
Like, I'm trying to be, in the interest of full disclosure, there was lots of like celebrating and lots of joy the other weekend. So I'm sorry.
I get it.
Apologize.
I get it.
But never in my lifetime has it ever happened. So like we can kind of share that. At least it did this time. I covered Schloss actually when he was at TCU, when he was in Omaha. He got there, I don't know, it was like 2015, 2016, something like that. And I only had a few interactions with him. I agree with you that I think he was the right guy for the job. I think he knows what he's doing. The way it ended was not ideal for anybody, but when you can go work for your best friend, it is what it is. It's the cost of doing business sometimes. But I agree that when you have the right guy, like Tony Vitello seems like the right guy. I don't think Missouri is big enough to come calling and steal him away, like his alma mater there. So I think Tennessee fans feel like they've got their guy that's going to fix their program permanently, and it seems like he has. So I agree. And in our scouting report, getting back to football, I agree. Our scouting report last year, which is from coaches in the SEC, we get our anonymous scouting report every year. And it's my favorite part of the magazine because we actually get the real stuff from coaches who say the real thing. And it's no longer about scheme and personnel anymore, because none of these coaches have any clue what any team is going to look like because of the portal and because of NIL. We used to get such fascinating insight into a scheme or a coach's tendency on third down, or we used to get really interesting stuff based on that kind. Well, these coaches don't know. When we're putting the magazine together in March and April and May, like, we're getting professional defensive coordinators in the SEC that are like, I don't know what that team's going to look like on offense. Like, they don't know, because the players don't even know half the time where they're going to be coming up in the fall. So it's changed to sort of like analysis of the program, analysis of the power structure, analysis of the organization, the culture, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more broad. And last year, the two comments that I thought were most telling were quotes about Texas and quotes about Texas A&M. And I'm sure you guys talked about them at this time last year, when it was like, and I'm paraphrasing here, you can see the culture problem on TV on the sidelines for Texas A&M. And on Texas, it seems that they have removed the entitlement from the program. Like, those are the two quotes that really stand out to me. And you never know if they're going to be accurate. Turns out they're both really accurate. One program goes on to have its best season in years, win a Big 12 championship, get into the playoff, and the other program spends a whole lot of money to fire its coach. Those things feel different now with Texas A&M. And that when you talk to these other coaches, it feels different now with Texas A&M. So it can change overnight, but you do have to have the right guy. And one of my favorite parts of this sport is to your question about top 10 program over the next 3 years. Like, sure, that's good click information, clickbait in the summertime. But like, what makes a great program is not a singular player or a singular coordinator. It is about sort of alignment. It's about infrastructure. It's about the resources. It's about access to recruits. It's about all the stuff that doesn't really change with a program. But you got to get the right person to run all of that stuff. And Tennessee's an example. Everyone that said Tennessee was never going to be fixable, oh, they're permanently damaged, they never were going to be able to win again. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. They have unlimited resources, great access to recruits. As long as you have all that stuff, you got to get the right people in charge. But because no program's immune to bad hires. I mean, every program has made bad hires. Alabama hired a guy that made it literally to the border of the state and didn't make it back again. Like, every program does that. They make bad decisions. Tennessee made a bunch of bad decisions for 15 years, and then they fixed it. They put a chancellor and an athletic director and a coach in place that all are in the same boat, pulling the same direction. Texas has done that, and it sounds like A&M is right along the board, which, again, those three programs, if you're asking me, which three programs are going to push and challenge Alabama and challenge Georgia, it's those three. And if you maybe want to mix in LSU, I think it's Texas, Texas A&M, and Tennessee.
Braden, that first game with Notre Dame, how far do you think that game goes in telling those programs' kind of story this year? Because we're going to find out a lot about Riley Leonard. How healthy is he? How is he looking in this new system with Mike Denbrook? We're going to find out the early phase of Texas A&M. I think they have a little bit more grace to kind of figure things out with a first-year head coach. But your thoughts on that?
I think it's to your exact point. I don't think if you lose a game in your Texas A&M, I don't think you learn a lot, because that's not the team I want to play at the end of the year. Like, I don't want to play Texas A. Like, I've said this on Feinbaum now multiple times. I've said it on every show I do. I am guaranteed. You guys probably hate to hear this. I am guaranteeing Texas A&M wins that season finale against Texas. I don't know if that means that they knock Texas out of the SEC championship game or out of a playoff spot. I don't know where Texas will be at that point, but I guarantee you A&M wins that game. And like, that's the time I don't want to play A&M. So I don't think you learn a lot about a loss to Notre Dame early, because Notre Dame, this could be one of the better Notre Dame teams we've ever seen in the modern era. So it will say a lot about Notre Dame if they don't play well in that game. I kind of think you're playing with house money if you're A&M. A close loss, good signs. A win, elite signs, great signs for the future. You get blown out, okay, it's bad, but like, you know, you could be playing a top 5, top 10 team. So I just don't think it's not the end of the world, because I think A&M by the end of the season, by mid-October, like, I don't think you want to play A&M the last half of the season, and really next year, which again is totally acceptable for a first-year head coach, I think.
Great stuff, Braden. I appreciate your time, man. I'll see you next week. We'll probably do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, man. Braden Gall there.